Alright guys, welcome back into another fantasy football video. In this video we're going to talk about a sleeper pick of mine that I like for the Green Bay Packers, and that's actually going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling. We'll also touch on another fantasy football asset that the Green Bay Packers might have later on in the season, maybe as a late ADP steal, or maybe a nice little early waiver wire pick for us in this upcoming season. But let's talk about the overview of Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Alright, so last year, MVS was kind of a fantasy asset for about 3 weeks there, where he was decent. Kind of looked like he was about to break out, and then he just kind of disappeared, along with the whole Green Bay Packers offense. They really struggled throughout the season, the whole team did. That's why they fired Mike McCarthy, brought in Matt LaFleur, in hopes that Matt LaFleur could improve the offense. And with that, if the offense does improve, you would think that their second best receiving asset would also improve, and that looks like it's going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is currently the wide receiver number 2 in that offense as he was operating in OTAs. Now let's talk about his 2018 stats. Alright, so his 2018 stats weren't the best. A lot of the times he was operating out of the slot in replace of Randall Cobb. 581 yards, not the best. 72 targets, which actually isn't too bad. If he gets about 20 more targets, that's really not too bad. The number that concerned me the most was that he only had 2 touchdowns. And I'll show you the film in a second here. That's really because he just didn't have a second gear. He had a few passes, receptions that he should have been able to break out and score a touchdown on. They just didn't. It's kind of concerning, but hopefully he just gets better this year and can break a few more touchdowns. He did have 98 fantasy football points and a half-point PPR, which isn't too bad. And I'll talk about his 2018 projection there while we're watching the film. Alright, so the film here is brought to you by Film Grinders. I'm not really sure, what that is or who they are. They're on YouTube. They have a bunch of decent players that they have film on. One of those players being MVS. So the one thing I want to talk about with this film is that it progressively got better throughout the year. And that's one thing that we like to see with the players, that is, just getting better. And it really seems like that was the case with MVS here. Now, that pass that he had, that touchdown right there they just had, those are supposed to be the plays that are opening up now in Matt LaFleur's offense, where they're going to be easier passes to make, and the receivers are supposed to be a little bit more open. That's kind of how his system is supposed to operate. Now, if that's going to happen or not, we shall see. That's a play that I'm talking about where he should have been able to score. He didn't. He just didn't have that scoring ability, it seemed like last year. Here's another play where, he really should have scored on that play. He just doesn't. Maybe he's just focused on making the right play, and, he's a rookie trying to earn playing time, and maybe that's just why he wasn't making those big plays. He was just trying to make the safe play. But that's a nice play right there. And see, the thing about his film is that he started to remind me of Davante Adams a little bit. So it seems like he's trying to mimic Davante Adams' game here with the stop and starts. You'll see on some of his sideline catches that he has. It really started to remind me of Davante Adams a little bit. And so if he's starting to develop into Davante Adams, obviously that's going to be a really good thing. And if he just does continue to develop like that, that's going to be a really good thing. And we could honestly see him being a good fantasy football asset. The biggest thing with MVS is he has to earn Aaron Rodgers' trust, and it kind of seemed like he did have that for quite a bit. It seemed like he was his favorite rookie receiver last year, and we kind of saw that. Now that is a play that I think reminded me of Davante Adams a lot there. Going up and grabbing it on the sidelines, catching it with the only way that he can. One of the things I like to use highlights for is to see a player at his best. This is where he's going to be if he's playing at his best. That's kind of what we want to try to project. If this is going to be MVS at his best, I think he'll be a spot starter in 2019. Maybe in games where we can project that Davante Adams is going to get double teamed, which would leave MVS open a few times. That might be a spot start for him, or just against a poor pass defense where we think the receiver number 2 can really go off and have a good week. I think that's going to be a spot where we can start MVS. But as you guys can see here, the film is getting progressively better here for MVS. He's running better routes, creating a little bit more separation. Seems like Aaron Rodgers was trusting him a little bit more on some key situations like this 3rd down and 11. MVS was able to find the soft spot and get upfield. But here's another play where he just doesn't have that second gear to, bust out and make a big play. And then this is kind of later on in the season. He just really doesn't have it because it's later on in the season. But that's all the film we have for MVS. Let's get into the next player that I want to touch on for the Green Bay Packers. And that's going to be Jake Coomer. I don't know if you guys were seeing that coming. So the Packers drafted Jamon Moore and Aquarius St. Brown as well as MVS last year. Jamon Moore seems like more of a slot receiver, but they're actually using MVS out of the slot a lot last year. Randall Cobb's gone, so someone needs to fill in for that slot. It seems like Devontae Adams is going to be the receiver number 1, and then it seems like MVS is going to be receiver number 2. And then I think Jake Coomer is actually going to be the receiver number 3, operating out of the slot a lot. We will still have to see that, how that plays out in training camp. But it seems like Aaron Rodgers really likes Jake Coomer, and there's been some quotes the past few years pretty much saying that Aaron Rodgers has trust in Jake Coomer. He wants to see Jake Coomer on the field a little bit more. And let's pull up his stats from last year. So the only real stats that we have from last year for Jake Coomer are his 2 preseason game stats that he had. Okay, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions, 34 fantasy points, and that's just in 2 games. So that's pretty good. And going forward, I think if Jake Coomer is going to be the starter for the Packers, that he could be a spot starter in fantasy football. And those are going to be in weeks where we know that the defense is not good at covering slot receivers, and maybe that's where Jake Coomer can step up. Now, we still have to see who's going to be playing slot. It could be MVS, it could be Jake Coomer, or it could be even Jamon Moore. We still have to wait and see. But the key thing here is that Aaron Rodgers likes to throw it to players that he trusts. That's why he was targeting Devontae Adams heavily last year. 2 years ago, Jordy Nelson. That's just kind of what he does. And so he does seem to have trust in Jake Coomer, which would mean that Jake Coomer could be a nice fantasy football asset throughout the year. Like I said, he's going to be more of a waiver wire addition for maybe a week here or a week there where the matchup's just nice and it's going to be a matchup that we can target. But DFS-wise, he could be a nice sneaky option throughout the season as well. But that's all I have for you guys. Let me know if you guys think MVS or Jake Coomer could break out and be a fantasy football asset. I think, on the top end, I think MVS could finish as a top 25 fantasy football receiver, and maybe Jake Coomer could finish as a top 35 receiver. And, those would just be spot start numbers right there. That's all I have for you. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thanks.